you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Come no closer, warned Sir Giles Morgan. Any man who lays a hand upon our king and queen shall die today. Lord Rogar was dismayed. Sheathe your steel and move aside, he commanded. Have you forgotten? I'm the king's hand. Aye, old Sour Sam answered, but we're the king's guard, not the hand's guard, and it's the lad who sits the chair, not you. Welcome back to the Throne of the Dragon podcast, the show that covers each and every episode of HBO's House of the Dragon. And in the off season, we are covering every chapter of Fire and Blood. I'm Josh, and seizing out next to me is Curtis. What's going on, buddy?
Too much information.
Were you getting sucked into the Weirwood network there? Is that your best Bran Stark impression?
Yes. I can see the future and the past.
He had to find the best wheelchair, though, man. That was I don't know if you missed it. That was the whole point of his looking back at the past.
You're right. Now you say that makes me think of the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer and George go get a wheelchair for that one lady. Because they parked in a handicap spot or whatever. But like Kramer's in that like motorized one, he's like hitting everything in the store.
Yeah.
This one's nice. Well, you like that one, Bran? Is that nice? Yeah, I think this will do.
Yeah, he's got all kinds of time to cruise around and find the best wheelchair models throughout their history and pick one. Right. All right. Well, today we are talking about the chapter The Year of the Three Brides. This is 49 AC.
Do you hear
What's
that?
Up?
I hear wedding bells.
You hear wedding bells? Oh.
Gotcha.
3 sets of wedding bells?
3 sets of them. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So this chapter mostly talks about, there's a little in between some important things, but 3 different marriages that happened this year, all within House Targaryen. You still hearing wedding bells?
No, you're good. I heard something else.
Oh,
sorry.
I
thought somebody was like, I thought somebody was starting a lawnmower. No, it's not. Okay, somebody's car. It's like at 8 o'clock at night.
8:30?
What's happening?
Okay,
life
so
in the suburbs.
These 3 marriages, all within House Targaryen. We've got Rhaena Targaryen to Andro Farman, Rhaegar Baratheon to Alyssa Targaryen. Otherwise, it's called the Golden Wedding.
Mm.
And then we've also got the marriage of Jaehaerys Targaryen to Alysanne Targaryen. So the first one that comes is Rhaena and Andro. Rhaena, as you know, Curtis, Rhaena is Jaehaerys' oldest sister.
Mm-hmm.
She was married to their older brother Aegon. Not her older brother. She's the oldest child.
She's the oldest, yeah.
Yeah, she's the oldest.
The oldest son of Aenys. How about that?
Yeah, she's married to the oldest son of Aenys.
There you go. Which is her father, if that's not confusing at all.
Get the chart out. Get the chart.
Welcome to the history of Targaryens. It's crazy.
It's all over the place.
That's right. You heard us right. incest.
Um, I keep making lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
You're good.
There's a lot going on here. Just like the Targaryen family tree, there's a lot going on there too.
Rhaena had been married to Aegon, and she was also one of Maegor's black brides.
Mhm.
So this time, I think she just kind of marries for love rather than duty or being forced to.
She's had it all
Um,
now.
yeah. Um, the Farmans are out at Fair Isle, and that's where she had been held up for a lot of the time that she was hiding out from Maegor. So I think she just develops relations with these people um, because it's definitely not a political marriage. Andro is the second son of Lord Farman, and the Farmans aren't even really, they're kind of like lower level lords. So a lot of people are kind of outraged about this. But even though they're not invited to the wedding, Jaehaerys and Alyssa both support Rhaena. They're happy for
Well, and
her.
you'd have to think, I mean, it's one thing is like, oh, if this was her first marriage, I mean, you just said it's like she's kind of been put through the ringer,
Yeah,
of being married to her brother. He dies. Um, and then she's forced to be, yeah, black bride to Maegor, and then all that happens, and it's like, so she's been
yeah.
put through the ringer, so it's kind of like, leave her be, we
And
support
especially if she's not going to rule, like it
you. Mhm.
doesn't matter that much.
Right,
It's still, they could have brokered a stronger alliance with another house, but
right.
still. So she marries without king's consent, which they're, you know, I feel like the only person in the small group there that's kind of pissed about it is Rogar.
Mhm.
But it does sow a little bit of tension, I think, between Rhaena and her mom, Alyssa. Just not even, you know,
Not
being
even
told
having her
about
there.
it
Yeah,
or anything
yeah.
like that. Um, so once we're settled back at King's Landing, Jaehaerys has been crowned. One of the next things we're going to do is we're going to stir up the small council a little bit. And they decide it's a good idea to go ahead and rather than just reward the lords that backed Aegon when he made his move against Aegor, they need to be kind of bringing in some of Maegor's supporters. I mean, these are House Targaryen supporters. Again, it's not like they were supporting another house. Um, the Celtigars and the Velaryons sided with Maegor, but those are two houses that they're Valyrian houses, and they fully supported Aegon. So it's different, like we had talked about before. It's a little less cut and dry, I think, than if it
Right,
had been a different house, like a rival house.
right.
But so the Celtigars, the Velaryons, the Tullys, the Corbreys, all of these were houses that backed Maegor, and they're all houses that are put on the small council. So uh, they got to repair this, they got to repair
Yeah.
the damage done. None of these guys were at war with Jaehaerys.
Mhm.
It's a
Yep.
different thing. Um,
Well, and
and
again, it's like you're
then
trying to turn the page and write your own chapter, and it's like everything that happened before, it's like we're it's kind of like what you did in the last episode. We talked about, he took away all the bounties, stuff like that. It's like he's wiping the slate clean. He's giving everybody a clean slate. Let's start this, over again. Let's try to get on the right foot and the right page again.
yeah,
So
yeah, I like the quote from him where he says, Some lords came to my banners early, some came
Mhm.
late. Let them all come now.
Yep.
So I don't remember all the offices, but I believe the Celtigar was the master of the treasury. Valarian was master of ships.
Mhm.
The Tully was master of laws, and I do not remember what the Corbury was in charge of. Do you?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember. And then Rogar Baratheon, or to you, Roger Baratheon.
Roger. He will
Um,
always be Roger to me.
he
Show me them feet.
he's
Pop off
uh,
them doggies.
he's going to be Hand of the King. But well, actually, before we talk about that, um, Rogar Baratheon, you won't have a ton of frame of reference for this because I know you still haven't gone too far in the dance. But Rogar Baratheon reminds me a lot of Cregan Stark, um, who is the lord, like the young lord at the time of the dance. Um, Kind of the way they handle some different things. Um, they're both the kind of guys that just they come in to enforce the king's rule and they just shut shit down. And they're also of the mind that like we're gonna wipe the slate clean, and when we wipe the slate clean, it's gonna be with a bunch of executions. Like these guys are all traitors, and we are gonna just start lobbing off heads. And then they're both kind of quelled by other people. Um, oh, I cannot, man, I can't believe I can't remember her name. The Blackwood girl, Allie Blackwood, I think. She's the one who kind of quells Cregan, and um, Jaehaerys is the one. Jaehaerys and Alyssa are both the ones who kind of keep Rogar on the other side of that. I feel like. But yeah, a lot of this stuff that, like his description, there's a lot of stuff about him that really made me think of Cregan Stark and just even more comparisons to the dance. But old Rogar Baratheon, Curtis, he's not going to be content with just being the king's hand. He's looking to get some king regent action.
I yearn. I yearn, Josh. He says, I yearn. Got something. I've got a hole in my heart missing. Yep. Wedding number 2.
Yeah, so the second wedding
Number
is going to
2.
be between Rogar Baratheon and Alyssa Targaryen, called the Golden Wedding. And this is another marriage that is done without Jaehaerys's consent,
Why do they call it the
um,
gold wedding, Josh?
because it was so lavish.
Okay.
Yeah. Because just kind of in comparison to Rhaena's super modest, quiet wedding, theirs was the biggest the realm had seen in quite some time.
Extravaganza. Yeah.
Yeah. Might have been the biggest. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless Aenys and Alyssa had a pretty
Big one.
to-do ceremony. Yeah, but um so I believe this is another one that's done without Jaehaerys's knowledge. I mean, he finds out that it's happening, but
Right.
the fact that they were planning it, I don't really think he knew.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
feels like Rogar's overstepping a little bit. He's reaching out a little further. There's a lot of people, that are secure with Jaehaerys's reign. Like they're fine with that because they know Rogar Baratheon is really in charge right
Well, I
now,
was going to say, wouldn't it when everybody was coming to like his coronation in the last chapter or whatever, like, and he was having kind of like those one-on-ones with everybody, and they were giving, a bunch of different descriptions on what they thought of him. Wasn't there like the thought of like everybody kind of felt like they knew he was the king, but they all felt like they were going to be dealing with the hand more than anything,
Yeah, and it's
and it shocked them to realize like, well, he's like we're dealing with the hand, but it's like he's more involved than what we thought he would be.
right. Yeah, and it's kind of repeated in this chapter. When people come for Rogar and Alyssa's wedding, there's people that come from all over, um, and they come and they speak with Jaehaerys, but then they're out there drinking and hunting and gambling and all this stuff with Rogar.
Right.
So, I don't know. It has this feeling of people would be okay with Rogar Baratheon being in charge also. And earlier when I said that people are fine with, Jaehaerys because they feel like Rogar is really the one running it. I feel like that's just kind of a facade though, because it never really mentions anything that he does that Jaehaerys doesn't like sign off on. It's not
Hmm.
like he was like, no, like we're not sending those people to the wall, we're executing them. And the Jaehaerys was like, oh well, okay, I guess I gotta
If you say
just gotta
so.
let you do it. But yeah,
Right.
there's no mention of that. So it definitely still feels like they're letting him have the final say on everything.
Right.
Um, there's a pretty good age gap between Rogar and Alyssa. And I mean, I think, oh, it was like 10 years, I
I
think.
think so. And she's older than him, right?
Yeah, he was like 32 and she's like 42.
42. Yeah. Yep. That sounds
She's got a
right.
pretty decent age gap. And I can't like really think of a reason. I feel like Rogar is positioning himself. I don't even really think he knows exactly what he's planning on doing, but um, oh God, you have another Weirwood Network moment over there.
That slash a sneeze.
Okay. Um, yeah, I don't even really think he knows exactly what his move is, but he has moved into, you know, back Jaehaerys, back that branch of the family. Um, and yeah, so there just doesn't seem to be a lot of, I don't know. There's no description that says that he was just like so in love with Alyssa Targaryen, that
Right.
their age difference didn't matter. And even though it seemed like she was past, um, she was past having
Childbearing years, whatever.
kids,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Hmm.
Oh God,
Whoa, what's happening?
I keep hitting my elbow over here.
Nice.
Okay, so the wedding is going to be celebrated by 7 days of feasts. And I don't know if it was initially intended to be a 7 day tournament, but the fighting did go on for 7 days based on kind of what we're about to talk about. So,
Yeah. Just happened that way.
um, Lords from all over Westeros and the free cities come to get the measure of Jaehaerys. It's times like these that always remind me, like, that the free cities are more in play with Westeros than it feels like a lot of the time. Um, I feel like we're just constantly going to be going back to this, but the Blackfire rebellions, like there's a lot of backing, from the free cities one way or another in that. So um I think it's because there's like so much trade and commerce between them that, sometimes you got to get involved in a war because, or just like this scenario, have good diplomatic relations because you want that trade to continue. So, even later on, there's going to be talk of potential marriage for Jaehaerys to the Argon of Tyrosh's daughter. So, and again, just Jaehaerys, he's very open. He meets with any lord or landed knight that wants to talk with him. Um, his younger sister, Alysanne, makes a big impact on the highborn ladies of the realm. Um, with Alyssa kind of being tied up, Rhaena not being there, she kind of, takes the lead of the highborn ladies and um, kind of tends to them throughout the 7 days of the tournament and the wedding here. And it's just more diplomatic work, like a lot of these people can tell that she's very intelligent, she's very well spoken, she's um, got a good demeanor. So, I mean, these are just things that you want to showcase to people who are a little worried about you guys taking over.
Right.
Um, the wedding ceremony is held in the Dragon Pit. Um, I think it said that it was still incomplete.
It was still open sky.
Yeah. Um, I really, how do you feel about the dragon entrance to the wedding?
I don't remember what happened. What?
Like, why do you feel okay? So, Jaehaerys and Alysanne like show up at the ceremony, but they both show up like on Dragonback.
That? It's a power move.
Yeah, I put down that like I don't know if it's necessarily a power move, but I feel like it is good to showcase the dragons,
You got to
It's the same
remind the
thing
people.
that yeah, it's the same thing that Aegon always did,
Mhm.
I show up on Balerion, um I let you see like what I've got here. Like it's a
And who's in
story is
control of
one
it?
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a story is one thing, and to see it in front of you is
Hmm.
another. So, um, I think yeah, when they do things like this, it's to kind of remind people, like, hey, like we've got the dragons. Plus, they want them to see how big they're getting.
Hmm.
I mean, Vermithor winds up being the next biggest behind Balerion and Vagar. Um, pretty wicked looking dragon too, like with such a long snout, like so you can really see all the teeth and everything.
Yeah. Oof. Woo!
So yeah, I feel like that's important. And they make mention of it in the chapter, not necessarily what it means, but I feel like it kind of tries to get you to think about that a little bit more.
Right.
Um, how do you feel about a tourney, Curtis? I love a good
The
tourney.
I say the more the merrier, my friend. This would be the
Um,
equivalent to our sports.
so because right now Jaehaerys's Kingsguard is just two guys. They've always got household guard and stuff. But or your master at arms or somebody might be one of your main guys, but yeah, there's only two named to the Kingsguard right now: Valus Morgan and Joffrey Doggett. So they kind of think, all right, well, this is a great place. this tournament where all the great knights from all over the realm have gathered to pick the last five of his Kingsguard. And I made a note. Does this remind you of anything?
What part? I'm sorry.
The fact that we're going to choose our Kingsguard based on a tournament.
Didn't they do that too in House of the Dragon, didn't they?
No, in House of the Dragon, that was like the reason that Rhaenyra was exposed to Sir Criston Cole. And then that was the reason why he was picked for the Kingsguard, because she already like saw him in combat. And
Oh.
yeah, plus he was the only one who had actual like real combat experience
Did they do
fighting
that
the
in
Dornish marches.
Did they do that in Game of Thrones?
No. So this is
Uh,
exactly what Aegon wanted to do to pick
Originally,
his
okay.
seven. And this is exactly what Visenya told him not to do. Um, Visenya's argument was that you want the most loyal guys around you, you know? But I think with Jaehaerys, that wasn't really a problem because he inspired so much loyalty. It was like
True.
people feared Aegon, you know, they respected him, but they feared him. And I think with Jaehaerys, it's like more of a it's a loyalty thing. Like he just inspires this loyalty in the people around him through kind of a different way. I just think he's, it's different. It's different than
It's not a
the way
fear
Aegon
mongering
inspired
thing. Yeah, it's
loyalty.
not. Yeah, it's not a conquering thing. Like I said, it's not a fear mongering thing either. He's just kind of being honest with them. It feels like he's just kind of being human, you know?
Yeah.
So he's getting down on one knee so he can get on their level.
Yeah. He's fair and just. And, we're only 2 for 4 on Targaryen kings
Yeah.
like that. So,
50%, not bad.
yeah. But so, that doesn't necessarily end up being an issue for him because these
Right.
guys who want to be his Kingsguard are guys who want to protect him.
Right.
And so we've got 7 full days of fighting for a spot on the Kingsguard.
24/7.
I doubt it. Probably like
Continuous.
sunrise to sunset.
Continuous fighting.
It's around the clock.
They're all just in there like,
Out there with lanterns.
oh, I'm so tired. Last one to stop fighting loses. Or I guess wins.
They talk about a few notable fighters, but none of those guys end up making it to the end. What was your take on the Mystery Night? Do you have any experience with Mystery Nights, Curtis?
No. Give me some history, Josh.
So
Talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
there's a few
Explain it.
tournaments in all of Song of Ice and Fire stuff that mention different tournaments where there's a mystery night. And it kind of feels like it's more of just a pageantry thing than anything. Because sometimes it's just a knight
Who is that guy? Where'd he come from?
yeah, a knight who is like of a noble house, but it's like
Right.
whoa, who is it?
Who could
Like
it
they
be?
fly
Spark
under
some
like a
interest.
weird banner or no
Yeah.
banner. Um, and sometimes it's a hedge knight, somebody who's like not really anybody. Sometimes it's a woman. So One of the ones that probably like the most popular one is going to be the Night of the Laughing Tree, and that's from the tourney at Harrenhal when Ned Stark was young. This would be before Robert's Rebellion. And it's generally thought that the Night of the Laughing Tree was his sister, Lyanna Stark.
Oh, Ned's. Okay,
Yeah. So just kind of an example there. But our example in this chapter was the Serpent and Scarlet, who I believe was also a woman, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's just like another level to tournaments, like just kind of that oh my gosh, who's that?
Spark
You
some
know,
interest,
like
like I said. Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Barristan Selmy entered as a mystery knight when he was like pretty young because like he couldn't get into the tournament. So I'm pretty sure he enlisted as a mystery knight.
Do you put that on your application?
If I
Mystery
remember
night.
that story right. I was mystery knight at the tourney of Harrenhal.
Right.
Three
Well, it's
years,
like
3 years running.
no, I don't mean that. I mean like a job resume. I just mean like your application for the tournament. That's the other thing too, is
No,
like, do they just allow one mystery night per tournament? And how do they pick the mystery night?
kind of feels like a first come first serve type
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've not
I mean, that
heard
was
of
a
there
legitimate
being
question.
like
That wasn't me just trying to joke around.
yeah, no, and I've not heard of there being more than one
Okay.
like at a tournament, but
One is enough.
who knows? I did like this note that because they don't tell us who the other um, five that are chosen are, at least here. But it does say that the first seven that Jaehaerys had as his Kingsguard, where that group of guys was the most formidable group of Kingsguard that there would ever be under any Targaryen king. So, and we know that Robert Baratheon's crew is pretty weak, and then Joffrey's pretty weak behind that. So,
Weak.
yeah. But yeah, I some of that stuff you're like, man, like I wish I could see like some of the stuff that happens with them, you know. That's why I'm glad we're getting the Dunk and Egg TV show, is because I want to see that tournament in the first book so bad. Like it's going to be so sick. The Trial of Seven, or it's 7-on-7.
Right.
Well, it's after the tournament, so it's not a part of the tournament. It's a trial of seven, which I think I've told you that before.
Mhm.
It's a trial by combat, but 7-on-7, so it gets pretty brutal. Oh yeah, and then we have one of those too with Magor and
I was gonna say, didn't we already have that in when Magor and the Warrior Sons?
yeah. We've had one
Yeah.
of those
So yeah.
already. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, things like this, you're like, oh man, I wish I could see those guys in action. You know,
Right.
like they
Yeah.
were the best. It's like, oh god. Um, So the last wedding
Question for
is
you. Sorry,
okay. Yeah, go
before
ahead.
we can get to that, it just kind of made me think of this. It's a little off topic, but um if you could, so obviously there's some different stuff that HBO is talking about series wise. You got Dunk and Egg. They've talked about Jon Snow, blah blah blah, hoobity boo. If you had to pick one that they haven't already, discussed possibly doing, which one would you pick? Like to do? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like
repeat the
a like a
question.
like a series like so HBO's
If I
got
had to pick a pre-existing Game of Thrones ish property to see
Mhm.
a show
Yeah,
about, is that what you're talking
yeah, yeah,
about?
that they haven't already brought up. So like you can't pick,
that they haven't already brought
Yeah.
up.
Well, I'm just saying like in terms of like what's already in production. So like the one you just said is like you can't I don't want you to pick that one because I know you're excited for that, but
Yeah. Um, I've said it before, but I'd really like to see an Aegon the Conqueror series. Maybe
only with Henry
covering.
Cavill. Come
I
on,
don't
man.
know.
He fits it.
I need him to slim down a little bit. I don't want jacked Henry. That's a little much. Um, yeah, I'd love to
Superman
see.
Targaryen.
I'd love to see an Aegon series. Maybe just like 2 seasons or something. First one being everything before Dorne. Second one being Dorne, maybe.
What about a Blackfire?
Oh God, yeah. That's gotta be
Because I was about
my
to say you talk about that a lot. So
that's gotta be the other one. Yeah, I would love to see one that covers like at least a few of the Blackfire rebellions. It would be cool to see one that does like a different one each season.
mhm,
So like five, like 4 or 5 seasons.
yeah.
Um, but we'll get to see one of them in the Dunk and Egg show.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, the one that never was, the one that ended before it began.
Oh, nice.
Um, but yeah,
Cool. Cool. Anyway, number 3.
wedding number 3. Um, so this one's the secret wedding.
Shh, don't tell anybody.
And
We're
there's a lot of
having a wedding.
talk. There's a lot of talk between the council and Rogar and Alyssa on who they should marry Jaehaerys and also Alysanne off to. Like I mentioned, the daughter of the Argon of Tyrosh was brought up. Alyssa always wants to reward the supporters of Aegon against Maegor, so she's putting forth some families who backed Aegon. Some of the small council members suggested one of the Black Brides. That just seems stupid to me. That just seems dumb.
Dumb.
Yeah, dumb. Um, and then they also, I think also there's the brief question of like, well, he could marry Alysanne, but what will the faith do? Like we've just calmed all of this down. Like, how are they going to respond to this? Um, what do you think about that? Do you feel like they'd be able to keep that contained, or do you feel like we're going to be right back where we were with Aenys and Alyssa?
I mean, you might be right back to where you are, buddy. You know, history repeats itself. So I don't know, man. I mean, it feels like they're making all the right moves, but at the same time, like in his reign so far, but man, at the same time, it's like you got to feel like if you're in Jaehaerys's position, you're always walking on eggshells, because you're trying to do the right thing. You're always trying to do the right thing to keep the realm together and keep the peace and not spark any type of rebellion or whatever. But man,
What's weird is it doesn't even really seem to be a thought in his mind, too.
yeah,
Like
just go with the
he's
flow.
like, no, we're gonna do this. Like
Yeah,
you're not gonna stop me.
it's like, wow, okay, which, tradition. So,
Um, so while they can't really figure anything out at the moment for Jaehaerys, or at least come to an agreement, Alysanne is promised to the youngest brother of Rogar Baratheon. And I don't know when their mom died, so I'm not sure how old he is, but she's only 13. So Rogar's 32. He has two other brothers, I believe. And I don't know. I'm not sure how close this is going to be. If he's going to be like a late teenager or if he's going to be like his early 20s. It could be mid 20s. I don't know. It just kind of depends.
Right.
Um, so that's what they decide. She's going to marry one of the brothers of Rhaegar Baratheon. Whenever Jaehaerys finds out, Alysanne finds out somehow, and she relays that to him, and then it's like everything starts clicking for him. He's like, they're probably planning a marriage for me too. If they're planning one for you, they're definitely planning one for me. So they're like, we're gonna get out of here.
Let's show them. You got a
Uh,
great idea. Let's marry each
so
other.
they take the King's Guard and both their dragons, Vermithor and Silverwing, and head for Dragonstone. We're gonna have a secret wedding. When Rogar and Alyssa find out, um, they come down there. They come with like I can't remember if it was like 50 men at arms and several of like his household guard and stuff. They came in force, and they come
Brought
to
back
break
up.
up the wedding.
Yeah.
And that is where I pull a quote from for this episode. Because Rogar kind of dismisses this whole thing. He's like, this marriage isn't consummated. Like we're gonna get around this. We're gonna pretend it didn't happen. And he's just like, separate them right now. And so when his men step up to the Kingsguard, everybody pulls steel, and we're about to have a standoff. That would have been something to see.
Mm-hmm.
Was those seven facing off against 50 plus men. That would have been pretty brutal. I think about like Barristan and Wormtongue down there in that alley, the two of them just working that group of guys. um so
Think of
especially this.
Damon
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Crab Feeders men.
yeah. And definitely like this group of seven, I feel like would be the wrong group to mess with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think Alyssa, if I remember right, defrays kind of the whole thing from escalating any further. She says, "What's done is done," and that kind of puts an end to the whole thing there. And Jaehaerys and Alysanne are going to stay on Dragonstone for the next little while. But all the while, Curtis, our old friend Roger, he's
Roger.
planning in the background.
Dealing in the dark.
And right now, there's not going to be any controversy around this because they're keeping it a secret. Um, on the King's Landing side of things, Rogar and Alyssa are keeping it under wraps because in their minds, it's like, oh, well, we'll fix this somewhere down the road. Like we'll keep looking for an out. So they're not going to tell anybody about it. So for right now, the Faith has no idea about it except for like their personal Septon, who's keeping it close.
Right.
So yeah, right now, nothing's being said.
But soon.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's going to take
This
us
is spoiler free, people.
spoiler free. That's going to take us to the end of the chapter. Did you have any final thoughts about this one, or any questions you wanted to pose around anything we talked about in
No,
this one? Gotta
no,
connect to
no.
the network for a minute there.
I'm about to say if I have any questions, I'll just connect to the network. Answered. No, I think I'm good,
Right.
man.
Next chapter we're going to be talking about is called the Surfeit of Rulers. Starts in 50 AC. I think that's it. If you just couldn't get enough in this one, we've got a few other episodes. We started doing these for Fire and Blood whenever season 1 of House of the Dragon ended. If you're watching through House of the Dragon or doing a little rewatch like I am right now, you can follow along with some of our earlier episodes there. We keep it spoiler free because we were watching first time through there, so we didn't even know what was going on. We've also got some other shows. We've got the Red Right Hand podcast, which covers each and every episode of the Peaky Blinders, all 6 seasons, which is friendly to first time and rewatchers. We've got we've got this one. We've got Throw of the Dragon. We've got the History of the Chorus podcast, which is a music podcast where each week we cover a different band from a core genre. That's where you've got core at the end of your genre. We've also got the History of the Chorus After Hours podcast where we discuss some other, well, I don't. Curtis and somebody else discuss some stuff from the bands that we've talked about there. Give a little extra analysis. It's the fun one. I say it's the fun one.
Me and
It's
Josh
the
Jr.
It's the kiddo podcast.
to the pop pop.
Yeah,
Pop pop.
because if History of the Core is the pop pop, that's the kiddo. You can follow us on Twitter at Is Survived by Productions, or me at my personal at Joshua Lynn Gary. You can also find video of all of our shows over on YouTube at Is Survived by Productions. Is that it? Anything else, Cars?
Did you plug our OnlyFans page?
I didn't. I didn't think
in the
this
works.
was
In the works.
the proper podcast to talk about.
This is not the platform.
Yeah, we'll bring that one up on the Red Right Hand podcast. Those people are sleazebags over there.
Okay.
All right. Let's get out of here before you say anything else too terrible.
Let's see. What else can I think of here? Who can I piss off? What group of people
Nope,
can I piss
that's it.
off now?
Bye.